Kari Fulton joins us now. She's an environmental justice advocate and educator. Kari, talk to us about the program we just saw in southern Brazil. Why aren't we seeing more of these type of programs everywhere in the world? Does it only work in certain regions?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm not sure if it only works in certain regions, but it does require a deep commitment and investment from the general public to see it as a resource that is valuable. And it also takes a investment from the different governments to make sure that it works and that you avoid issues like cross contamination with your recycling, and that it actually goes into the places where it needs to go so that it doesn't end up in a landfill anyway.
Right, we didn't see what happens with the farmers who are uh, contributing that food, but what makes a recycling program successful and why is it so hard to replicate? Is it not enough for all of us just to separate our paper, our plastic, our metals, and that sort of thing?
Sometimes it's just confusing, to be honest. Sometimes the simple things like making sure that people know what is recyclable and what is not recyclable and what to do with the things once they recycle them are super effective in making sure that a program is successful. There's also the realities of how much a city or a municipality invests into recycling versus traditional trash disposal. And oftentimes those programs go on the back burner. So when we have things like COVID, there was a big issue where just weren't enough workers to manage the trash and also the recycling programs.
That is a really good point. My next question to you, does recycling really mitigate climate change? I mean, it's everywhere we see now, you see bins, recycling bins, and places to separate. And a lot of different countries have very specific recycling programs. Um, does it make a difference?
It absolutely does. In the longer scheme of things, landfills, they emit a lot of carbon and they emit a lot of pollutants, and they're also very hazardous long term. So, the more that we can keep out of landfills and the more that we can reuse our natural resources, the better. So, we also are able to not only save our planet, but also save our economy a bit because we're able to utilize these precious materials instead of having to continue to extract them. We're able to utilize these materials for other needs.
You mentioned COVID may have played a factor in sort of slowing things down, but how is the world doing when it comes to recycling? If you had to give the world a report card, what are some of the challenges that still remain?
Well, there's always going to be the challenge of where does this recycling go? Oftentimes the question of who and what country will take over people's recycling, so because a lot of times these products are exported, and now when countries like China said no, I'm not going to take all of the world's waste and handle it and recycle it properly, it was a big issue for a lot of other countries, especially here in the United States, because we just didn't have the infrastructure that was necessary to maintain a robust recycling program. So we have to build those up here locally, and what that means,
All right,
even
Kari.
stronger than what we have now.
Indeed. Kari Fulton, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.